Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Vedic Astrology Podcast. My name is Fiona Marques. We have been exploring, understanding the Rashis by following the sun on its journey through each of the Rashis this year. And right now we have the sun entering into the sign of Leo. So it's a great chance for us to understand a little about what the field of Leo is all about. So let's begin by just bringing into our awareness what's actually going to be happening during this solar month of Leo. We have right now, as I'm recording, the full moon is taking place just at the very end of Cancer and Capricorn. And the moon in that full moon position is also really close to Pluto, which is right at the end of Capricorn, beginning of Aquarius. So that's how we start this solar month of Leo, is actually just by referring to the full moon the day before. But on the 22nd of July, the sun is entering into tropical Leo. And on the 25th of July, Mercury is going to move out of Leo and into Virgo. And right as it does that is right around the time that the moon will just be passing over Neptune up there in Pisces. And then on the 4th of August, we have a new moon in Leo at around 12 degrees. And the day after, Venus is going to move into Virgo on the 5th of August. And that's also the moon will be traveling out of Leo at that time too. On the 8th of August, Mercury and Venus are going to be conjunct at the beginning of Virgo around 4 degrees. And then we have Mars and Jupiter also going to be conjunct on the 14th of August. That's in Gemini, around 17 degrees. And the day after that, on the 15th of August, Mercury moves back into Leo. So it's retrograded its way. Having arrived in Virgo, by the 15th of August, it's transferring back into Leo. And that means that as on the 19th of August, as the sun is getting ready to leave Leo, it will be conjunct with Mercury at 27 degrees. And there will also be a full moon on that day in Aquarius at 27 degrees as well. And then on the 22nd of August, the sun is going to move into Virgo and end our exploration of solar Leo. And right as the sun moves into Virgo, leaves Leo, the moon is going to be on that day moving through Pisces and going over Saturn, Neptune, and Rahu in Aries. There will be the sun and the moon both experiencing things at the very end of this solar Leo month. Now, as we always do, let's see if we can find what confluence or what connections are there between the sun and Leo. And we have done this for every month that we've looked at. So we began with solar Pisces and all the way through, or is asking ourselves, what does the field have in common with the planet that's transiting? And in this case, obviously the matchup is quite high because it is the sun that rules the sign of Leo. So it's a very natural placement for the sun to be in Leo. In fact, during the whole transit, the sun will either be in its Mula Trikona position or it will be in own home position. So we can see that there's going to be a high level of match. And one of the ways that we can think about that is at the element level. So the fire element, the sun is a fire element planet, and Leo is also associated with the fire element. As well as that, they both share the masculinity, the gender of masculinity, meaning that there is perhaps that external focus, wanting to interact, wanting to take action. And as it's the sun, we can think about that as perhaps around leading from the front. And they also share the same guna, both sharing the sattva guna. I think one of the ways that helps me understand Leo and this solar month of Leo is the modality of the fixed sign of Leo. So we know that when we first looked at the fire sign, that was Aries, and it was an active sign, and we associate Aries with all of that initiative and even risk-taking putting everything in our self-belief and starting. That's what Aries is all about. By the time we come to this part of the ecliptic, to this 30 degrees of the sun's journey, we find Leo is a fixed sign. So it's a sign, a field that naturally creates stability and wants to integrate all of the experiences by providing that solidity. And this makes me see Leo as having that confidence. The sun has the confidence here because of its fixed foundation of Leo. It also matches very well with our idea that the sun is consistent, the way that the sun comes up every day of the year, a constant companion through our life. And this fixed sign nature of Leo makes me think of the sun's quality of being protective and also of being sacrificing, the idea that the sun is willing to sacrifice for the greater good also seems to fit with this idea of Leo being a fixed sign. So perhaps if we were to contrast it with the only other fire sign that we've looked at in our journey through the year, we could notice that maybe a difference is around Aries being a little bit more that dynamic, active sign and willing to take risks, even high level of risk. And perhaps Leo has more that only going to take risks if it's for the protection of everyone, a sense of sacrifice for the greater good. And maybe a different quality to the confidence of the sun in Aries, of a boldness, a self-belief. In Leo, perhaps just a really natural, supported sense of confidence and permission to lead and to initiate. Maybe not so much a sense of having to force or take risks with a Martian kind of space of Aries, but being completely in one's own home or even Mula Trikona with the actions one takes in Leo from the sun's perspective. Now, another way that we have been understanding the field of these different rashis is to have a look at some of the nuances of what it might feel like for each ascendant. And every time we do this, we give the same caveat that obviously all of our charts are unique. We've got our own planets placed in completely different positions from each other, even if we share the same ascendant, which is the criteria that I'm going to discuss in a moment. What is Leo like for each ascendant? So even if we have the same ascendant, everything else can be completely different. The dignities of the planets can be completely different. The signs that they're in, the conjunctions they're in, the different avashtas they're experiencing. So while we're going to talk about each ascendant, it really is not a template cookie cutter thing that we can say everybody with this particular ascendant is going to experience the same thing. But what we're really trying to do is take the invitation of astrology to be a little bit more connected with the cycles of the sky and the cycle of our natural world. And to do that as we live in kind of sometimes a busy and detached and almost virtual world, to do that, one of the ways is to reconnect with some natural rhythms. And we've been doing that on Patreon all year. We have had a Varshafal group. We just had our final meeting and we have met the 13 times of the year to look at the role of the sun in everybody's chart, specifically through the lens of the solar return, as a way of reconnecting a little bit to that solar energy. And that's also what we're doing here in our looking at the sun's transit through Leo. It's a way for us to perhaps reconnect with our solar energy. With that caveat, let's jump into a little bit of detail. Couple of things to remember are that when the sun arrives into Leo, Venus will be there already. And Venus and the sun are mutual enemies in Vedic astrology because they have different modus operandi and different rationale about what life is about. And when they're together, they mutually encourage maybe the worst type of sacrifice in each other. So Venus can encourage the Sun to sacrifice its inspiration in order to create harmony with others, to be appealing to others, to be palatable. So that's not really in line with the Sun's mission of truly following its auspicious inspiration. And on the flip side of that, the Sun can really encourage Venus to sacrifice its own innate sense of taste, its somatic, sensory-based compass of what I truly want or what pleases me, what resonates with my energy, body manifestation. So we sacrifice our taste for the inspirational great good that the Sun is inspiring us for. So something to keep in mind for the first half of this transit through Leo is that it could be a little muddled with the two of these mutual enemies in our attempt to understand what Leo really feels like. We must acknowledge that we're going to have a little bit of a discomfort battle there between Sun and Venus. But on the other hand, it is a good time to reconnect with Leo because the Sun will be Mula Trikona or own home during the whole solar month of Leo, meaning that it's awake. It's got the most chance of being conscious of its experience through Leo. So that might help us reconnect with Leo energy. So as we normally do, let's go through each ascendant. If we think of Aries ascendant, then the Sun is the fifth lord for an Aries ascendant, and it will be in the fifth house. So we can cast our mind towards what we know about the fifth house, that it's a house of intelligence, and the Sun is a planet of intelligence. So this seems like a really natural match if we want to reconnect a little bit with solar energy. The fifth house also has an association of working with mantras and to some extent spiritual texts. So perhaps there's a mantra, perhaps it's Gayatri mantra time. The fifth house also has associations with investments and taxes, and for that reason, government. It has associations with children and happiness, and also with game, recreation, sport, being outside, adventure, and with romance. So these are some of the ways that the fifth house might be stimulated. So maybe listen in to your experiences during the month and see whether you agree with those. And if there's something that you want to initiate in that area, perhaps now's a great time to do it. Maybe start your mantra practice, or maybe it's time to file your taxes. You know your own life. Maybe it's time, we're on holiday, maybe it's time to spend time with the children. A couple of other things to keep in mind for Aries ascendant is that Mars, the ascendant planet for Aries ascendants, has been conjunct Uranus. I'm sure maybe you've been feeling that. It's in the second house for Aries ascendants. And then Mars is, through this solar month, moving out of Taurus and into Gemini, where it will conjunct Jupiter. So there's sort of things going on for the ascendant lord for Aries ascendant. And just a reminder of what the fifth house is about, that really it's wanting to secure our auspicious sense of self and create our legacy. And this fifth house, the sign of Leo, is a fixed sign and it is a dharmic sign. So some quite nice confluence there. For Taurus ascendant, the Sun is the fourth lord in the fourth house, and this brings to mind ideas around the home, around our homeland, and our connection with the home and homeland. So maybe that's going to be accentuated during this month, or maybe we'll feel even more disconnected. It just means that the energy will be perhaps bringing that into our awareness. The fourth house is also associated with mother, with vehicles, with education, and growing things. And when maybe it's out of balance, perhaps the fourth lord in the fourth house, we can become too attached to our luxuries or too sentimental. So if we want to understand Leo as a Taurus ascendant, these are the kind of things to allow our attention to focus on during the month. These ideas around home and mother and education, growing things. As we said, Venus is going to be with the sun at the start of this transit. So what is that going to feel like? So if you're a Taurus ascendant, you might want to be open to that. Remember, once Venus moves out of Leo, it's going to go debilitated into Virgo. And we also have that Mars-Uranus conjunction was happening in Taurus. So there's a lot of things really going on for Taurus ascendant. And as our fourth house, we really want to, it's an angular house, but it's also a moksha house. So we want to take actions to establish a receptive home base where we are supported psychologically, emotionally. It becomes our inner sanctuary, our heart base, that no matter what goes on in that outside world, we have the sanctuary to ground us. That's what we're trying to establish with the fourth house. For Gemini ascendant, the sun being in Leo represents the third lord being in the third house. So if we want to reconnect and understand Leo energy, we're going to use the sun as a bit of a tool to do this. We might think about some of the associations of the third house. And one of them is like being in the right place at the right time, doing things at the right time. Another association around siblings and peers and friends and teammates. Also, the third house can relate to communication and advertising and marketing. It also can be athletic because of that exploring and adventurous nature of the third house, which also could be to do with short travel, short journeys over this Northern Hemisphere summer period. The third house is self-motivated. The third house is also a technical area, perhaps skills, scientific skills, being good with technology. The third house, and with the sun there, can be around good life energy and communicating, writing, connecting with our peers and friends. The third house is about finding our place in the world, finding our place in the pack, in our tribe. So we are exploring what our abilities and skills are. We're testing ourselves and bumping into others, other friends, other teammates, other siblings. That's how we know where we are in the pack. So these are the things that you might like to focus on as a way to reconnect with the space of Leo and the space of the sun traveling through Leo, keeping in mind the fixed male sign of Leo, and any caution there is just around being overconfident or overcompensating. For Cancer ascendant, the sun is the second lord, and it's going to be in the second house during this transit. So if we wanted to understand Leo better, and we want to perhaps do that by following the sun through this month, we can remember some of the associations of the second house, that it's our immediate family, it's our face, our eyes, our mouth, and therefore it's our speaking. It's also about earning and our finances in that way, the work that we do to earn money. And so earning money through our voice is that combination that the sun might bring. It's also about food, or what we intake into the mouth. And we might, as the second house is an Arthur house of responsibility, we might be managing our finances or feeling secure. This is a fixed sign, feeling secure in our finances. And the second house is all about wanting to understand our innate worth. So perhaps using some of those keywords might help reconnect us with Leo, the field of Leo, as the sun travels through this solar month of Leo. And that brings us to Leo, the first lord in the first house. This is something that we looked at way back in season 2. In episode 13, we went through each version of the first lord in the first house for every sign. And when we did that for Leo, we looked at Andy Warhol, who was an artist who really was extremely well known and extremely creative and almost created his own style of art. And in some ways, even though he did that, he was even more famous than his work. So some real Leo shining qualities there. And he also fostered a community of up-and-coming artists and created a foundation to which all of his wealth at the time of his death went towards this foundation of developing new artists. So it also reminds us of that Leo mission of protecting others and achieving our self-expression, our creative expression, as a way to help bring everyone along as a leader. As we move forward, so does everyone move forward. So you can go back and have a listen to that episode. If we think about what the first house is all about, it's the beginning of the hero's journey. We want to take action to discover ourselves on this auspicious path. We cannot know really what our mission is until we take action, and we have to jump in and explore or take the risk. And through going through the hero's journey, we'll know what it is that we're here for. So the first lord in the first house, if you want to take this invitation to reconnect and understand the field of Leo by using the sun's transit, we might think about how the first house is related to self-development, to being autonomous, and to self-expression. It's related to having a congruent character, to being a leader when it's the first lord is sun in the first house. And the cautions with the first lord in the first house is when we're leading for our true auspicious inspiration, and that is informed and aligned with others and the people that we're leading. For Virgo, taking this opportunity of solar Leo would be looking at the 12th lord. The 12th house is a receptive house of contemplation. It's where the entire hero's journey is integrated and released. So it's receptive to the interconnectedness of everything and to transcending everything. So keeping that 12th house in mind, if we want to reconnect with what Leo is about, we can use the sun's transit through Leo and think about these 12th house indicators around contemplation, reflection, dreams, the dreams that we have when we're sleeping, and giving all that we have. The 12th house has a connection to charity, and the sun is sacrificing, so might be a time to connect with being generous. The 12th house, a place where we can enjoy being alone. So maybe it's a time of retreat. Maybe you're going to have a chance to retreat from the busyness of your daily routine, which can include long, far away places or long, far away vacations. I guess even the internet is the 12th house, isn't it? And with all 12th house things, we want to remember around the challenge to be grounded. And sometimes the 12th house, we feel uncomfortable in the body. It's easier to be out of the body. So take those two cautions, keep those in mind as we reconnect with Leo through following the sun's journey. For Libra Ascendant, we are looking at the 11th lord is the sun. If we want to use this time, this solar transit, as a way to understand Leo, it brings to our awareness the 11th house. And the 11th lord in Vedic astrology can be seen as difficult because it's a karma house, a house of following our aspirations and our desires, which is wonderful, but can lead us away from perhaps the mission that we're here for. If we think about the imagery of Libra and the scales, we have the gold in the scales is what the sun represents. And it brings to mind what is really the purpose of trading. If we go back to Gemini, the statement about Libra is, in Libra trade. Very concise. And Venus-ruled ascendants or Venus-ruled signs are all about value. So what is the value of trading? And this is where the sun becomes the 11th Lord. Is the value of trading, is it about the gold? Or is it about the relationship, the transaction, and the transformative power of trading? And if it's about the gold, can it become something that a Libra ascendant gets stuck in? We think of Leo as a fixed sign. The pursuit of wealth and gold has a heaviness to it. And Libra is an air sign of movement. So this is maybe some of the reasons why the sun could be difficult for a Libra ascendant. So keep that in mind. Go back and have a look at Season 1, Episode 11, has a discussion of the 11th Lord for all of the different ascendants. It just happens to be when we're doing this whole year of understanding the fields, the rashis, it happens to be that every time we talk about Libra, we talk about the 11th Lord, but there's a whole podcast on the 11th Lord for each ascendant. So we want to keep in mind we're looking at the 11th Lord. It has a certain amount of risk to it for the dharmic purpose of Libra might be derailed by the 11th Lord. The other things to keep in mind is that Venus is going to be with the sun at the start of this transit. So this whole mutual sacrifice can be not helpful. And then it's going to go into debilitation. Just like with Taurus, it's a very interesting time for these Venus ascendants. But if we want to take this opportunity to understand Leo a little bit better and follow the sun through Leo as the 11th Lord, we can remember some of the connections of the 11th house. For example, life getting better over time. It's a house that grows and gets better. The 11th house is often associated with being socially well-connected and networked, perhaps always up to date on the latest opportunities and getting opportunities throughout your life, perhaps being political or diplomatic, maybe manipulative, perhaps depends what else is going on in the chart, but hopefully well-respected, having the sun connected with the 11th house. The 11th house is also associated with titles and certifications. So if you're waiting for some recognition, perhaps this is a way to connect with the sun moving through Leo. And it is also our elders and our older siblings, or even maybe mentors who we look up to or people who guide us. And really, it's about fulfilling our dreams and aspirations. We were talking about the 12th house, the dreams that you have when you're sleeping. The 11th house are the dreams that you have when you're awake. So this might be a way to reconnect with the field of Leo. The sun is going to be Jagrat. It's in a fixed sign. And the 11th house wants us to belong and to contribute. For Scorpio ascendant, if we want to reconnect with Leo, the sun is going to be the 10th Lord transiting through Leo this month. So it's the 10th Lord in the 10th house. Remember that Mars, the ascendant Lord for Scorpio, has just conjunct Uranus, which you may have felt. That would have been in the 7th house. Mars is continuing to move through that 7th house and will move into the 8th house and conjunct with Jupiter during this solar month. So keep that in mind. And if we think about what the 10th house is really about, it's surrendered to taking the actions that are required for success, isn't it? On the hero's journey, the big vision has been outlined for us, and the 10th is where the rubber hits the road. So some of the 10th house associations are obviously to do with work and the activity in the world that inspires others. Perhaps it connected with working with government organisations, and because it's so powerful, the 10th in the 10th, it's an angle, it's activated. One of the things that we might get in touch with to reconnect with Leo and the sun is just asking ourselves about whether we're feeling stuck in our career, or we're feeling so successful that we can't leave, or whether the fixed nature of Leo is making us choose security over inspiration. So during this solar month, as a way to reconnect with Leo energy and the sun, which is going to be Jagrat in this 10th house, hopefully that brings a real sense of success in our work, but we can also question our work-life balance, and that might be some of the things that will help us reconnect with the sun transiting through Leo. For Sagittarius ascendant, if we want to reconnect with the field of Leo, we could follow the sun traveling through Leo this month, and it would be the 9th Lord. And the 9th Lord is associated with purpose. It's guiding us. The 9th Lord wants to guide us in an auspicious and purposeful mission, something that we are committed to and devoted to. 9th house associations that we could think about in relation to the sun that might help us understand the sun going through Leo is around ethics and morals and good character, feeling inspired, feeling purposeful, feeling innate sense of direction and meaning, and able to make decisions based on those, perhaps an ability to see the bigger picture. And the 9th Lord also relates to our own culture. So we might feel that we are a strong representation of our own culture, or depending on the indications of the chart, some discomfort or disconnection with our own culture. The 9th house is also related to higher education and knowledge, scriptures, faith, philosophy. It's related also to marriage and what we're committed to, and it can also be related to traveling the world. So these are the things that, if we want to understand Leo a little bit better, connect with the sun during this month, perhaps we're going to think about these areas of purpose and meaning. One thing to keep in mind is that Jupiter is in the 7th house. That's the Ascendant Lord, is in Gemini, and it's going to have that Mars transit during this solar month. So the 5th and 12th Lord, Mars, is going to conjunct with the Ascendant Lord in the 7th house. For Capricorn ascendant, if we want to take the invitation to understand Leo better, we can think about the sun's transit as being the 8th Lord for a Capricorn ascendant. And the 8th house is where we are surrendered to going through the darkest, to going through the ordeal, surrendered to transforming the deepest traumas and purifying our soul or experience of being conscious. It's the moksha house, and all of the moksha houses are transformative enlightenment houses. And we could take the invitation of the sun being in Leo to reconnect with that field by perhaps thinking about vitality, the 8th Lord of vitality. It's also a place where crises happen, the 8th house of sudden breaks and changes. So maybe having the sun there will allow us to be intelligent, maybe even see those crises before they occur, perhaps. It could activate our intelligence around psychology, analysis, investigation, astrology, tarot, all of those kind of deep subjects, even an interest in understanding after-death states, can give us a certain magnetism to our personality, that mysterious 8th house having the sun Jagrat there. And the 8th house can be related to other people's money as well. And it can also be related to withdrawing our senses in that moksha way of bringing all of our awareness inside the body, inside the sensory system, and using that attention for our spiritual enlightenment. Saturn, the Ascendant Lord for Capricorn, is in the 3rd house during this transit, the 3rd house of skills and courage and adventure. For Aquarius Ascendant, if we want to take the invitation to understand Leo via the transit of the sun, we might like to remember that the sun is the seventh lord for Aquarius Ascendant. And the seventh house is all about partnership in Vedic astrology. It's about connecting with other people, transacting with other people, relating to other people. And the sun being the seventh lord in the seventh house, perhaps people are going to feel more comfortable with us. It's going to make us more charming and attractive and persuasive. And if we think about the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius, the two Saturn ascendants, it's interesting to contemplate the sun as the seventh lord and how that gives Aquarius a real inspired interest in others. And while Saturn and the sun are enemies, they're both self-sacrificing in different ways for completely different reasons. But something that's quite charming about Aquarius Ascendant is the way the sun as the seventh lord has that leadership quality of guiding Aquarius Ascendant to have inspired and protective relationships with others. So that might be a way to connect with Leo energy during this solar transit. It would be interesting to watch whether we feel like we want to do things with others, whether we put too much attention on that during this solar month, whether we have difficulty doing things alone during this solar month. Let me know what that experience is like. Saturn will be in the second house during this transit, and the seventh house is all about transacting with others to achieve outcomes. And for Pisces Ascendant, if we want to take this solar month of Leo to use the sun's transit as a way to either reconnect with solar energy or reconnect with what Leo feels like, the field of Leo, we can think about the sun as the sixth lord, and in this case it would be in the sixth house. And the sixth house has associations around health, digestion, our immune system, about overcoming obstacles and death, our skills in defending ourselves, in healing ourselves, even in some ways in legal matters. Sixth house can also represent pets and animals, and it can represent enemies and our capacity to battle with our enemies and how we confront others. Using the sun as the sixth lord, ideally very auspicious and inspired approach to conflict where we want to protect others and we want everybody to come along. When the sun's not performing well in Ayana Vala, it can be every man for himself a little bit. The sun's strong in Ayana Vala, which is our strength of confrontation, is that we can create that vision, that larger purpose, really make that very real, which allows us to go through conflict and to bring others with us. During this transit, Jupiter is in Gemini. That's his ascendant lord. It's in the fourth house, and it's going to be transited by Mars, the second and the ninth lord. And the sixth house is all about responsibly doing those daily actions that lead to value or that lead to the outcomes or the experience of life. There are lots of things that we need to do in terms of the way we nourish the body, the way that we take care of the body and exercise the body. We need to do those every day in order to have the chance to live a long and conscious life. And that is what the sixth house is all about. And here is the sun in the fixed sign of Leo for this solar month. So perhaps we can reconnect, have our awareness on our health and our daily activities during this month as a way to reconnect with the sun or reconnect with Leo or both. So that brings us through our monthly contemplation of a particular Rashi. In Vedic astrology, we're using the sun to go through each of the Rashis. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on your month. So reach out, and remember that there are opportunities on Patreon to connect, and I look forward to seeing you there. Happy Solar Leo, everyone. See you next time on the Vedic Astrology Podcast. Bye for now. Bye.